Sometimes in life we just suffer. Sometimes it's from being totally withdrawn, or so much stress that we are totally anxious, or so tired that we are totally burnt out. But our current position is not our final destination. No, indeed. There's hope. So whether it's your personal life, your career, your relationship, your business, or your job, we say there's reason to believe again. And we present from Andy's personal development, the breakout room. It's the place for health, happiness, and prosperity. Stay tuned for more. Hey, and welcome. This is Andy of Andy's Personal Development, and you are currently live in the breakout room. This is an amazing day just to be alive and to be on planet Earth. We have a wonderful program and an engaging episode for you. It's entitled The Possibilities of Privilege with Jason Browne. He is our guest for today. Whether on the stage or on the page, it's Jason Browne. Those are his watchwords. Now, Jason Browne is a dynamic force in radio, marketing, and public speaking, with collaborations including Facebook, Microsoft, and Rotary International. He's known for his unique approach to discussing leadership, diversity, and social change. Jason Browne is a storyteller at heart, dedicated to impacting future generations. He's an award-winning radio host with over 5,000 hours on air, and he's influenced over 100,000 people globally through events and radio. There is so much more I can say, but this man is the one that's going to take the spotlight as he tells us about his life, his story, his work, and the impact about what he's doing today in the world. Let's welcome our guest live in the breakout room, Jason Browne. Welcome.
Well, thank you, Andy. I appreciate that wonderful introduction. I appreciate that, man.
Wonderful people deserve wonderful things. Thank you for bringing your wonderfulness to the breakout room. How are you doing today, Jason? How is things?
I'm gonna steal a phrase you said to me 5 minutes ago. You said today is another wonderful day, and that might just be my mind and my heart set. So that's what I'm running with today.
Wonderful. Sounds like
Yeah.
a plan.
Yeah.
So, Jason, what you're doing now currently with regards to the stuff seeing, in terms of from the Rotary perspective and reaching out to those who are underprivileged and less needy, less fortunate, raising over $1.1 million. Has this always been at the forefront of your focus? And if not, when did this thing happen to you that you decided this is who I'm going to be and you became passionate, and apparently it's been a fulfilling experience for you? When did you have that aha moment, Jason? Tell us.
So when I was younger, I always
Yeah.
wanted to be, when I was a kid, let's say,
Yeah.
like, I don't know, 12, 10 years old, I always wanted to help others. I didn't do a lot when I was younger, but I always felt that there was a need to give back and support for those that, especially those that didn't have the things that I had. If I was
Right.
blessed with, if I was blessed with a home, and folks did not have a home, then in my mind it was always like, what should be done about this? As when I was a kid, though, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to focus it. I went to church as a kid. My parents didn't, but my parents didn't like point me in any particular direction. So growing up, I just had this feeling of like, what am I going to do to
Yeah.
help other people? So when I got after I graduated college and whatnot, I found this thing called Rotary. And Rotary
Yeah.
is an organization that gets people from around the world to help others. And it wasn't until that I went to my first convention. They have these conventions yearly, and there was one that
Yeah.
was in Atlanta. They had a Rotary International Convention in Atlanta in like 2016, and they have these things called the House of Friendship. And in this House of Friendship at the convention, they have these booths that have people from all around the world that are doing really wonderful things. Like it could be something as small as, I remember there was one person who was creating books to help talk about being safe,
Uh,
about being safe to kids, but he did it and used like stuffed animals to tell stories. But this was in like
right.
Kenya and certain
Yeah.
countries, and he was focused on communities that didn't have all the resources necessary. And then there were people who were providing water systems in countries after disasters. Then there were people that were providing wheelchairs for those in third world countries that couldn't do it. And I was sitting there looking at all these people, and these are people that weren't making a whole lot of money, but they were on a path. They had a mission, they had a passion to take whatever resources they had to make an impact on people around the world, and they weren't going to stop. They were going to keep on pushing regardless of whatever was there.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
was like, this is amazing. How? Oh my goodness! Like I was like, these are the passionate people that I want to surround myself with. And so
Right.
ever since then, I've been digging deeper and deeper into Rotary to make sure that I can continue to leave an impact in the ways that I can. So it
Yeah.
was that 2016 moment in Rotary.
I salute you, Jason. And obviously, things have been quite fulfilling and engaging for you. That's a beautiful way for you to give back, so to speak. It's like you found your niche.
Yeah,
Tell
absolutely.
us a bit about the music part of Jason Brown. I saw some videos,
Oh
man.
no! Oh
Yes,
no!
it's part of your story, dude. You gotta share. You gotta share. Tell us about the music part. We're building up
Okay.
something here.
Okay. So the music is part of who I am.
Right.
When I was a kid, my father was a radio DJ as well. He was a radio DJ. He was the guy that would be on late night. I think he was only on like a couple nights when I was really young, but then he was on all the time. He was the guy that was
Okay.
late night, and he'd be like, "Welcome to radio. Here we're going to listen to some jams at night." That would be my father, right? So I had my dad doing that thing, and then my mom. She was an elementary music teacher in the public school system in
Yeah.
Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, in the United States. And
Right.
so when I was growing up, I was surrounded by different various types of music. My dad had as a radio DJ, what happens is that they give you free like sample albums, like
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
old school big records that you
Yeah.
would put on a
Yeah.
turntable. So he would
Right.
have a bunch of records on the in these cabinets just because he got them for free. And so I was
Mm.
always surrounded by music, and so I just read an article that said that when you're younger, I don't remember the age, and you're exposed to a lot of music, the way that music connects to you or works in your brain is different as an adult. And so I think
Ah,
that definitely had a really deep impact on me because even while I was waiting in your waiting room, I was jamming out to my song. I was all
I
dancing. I
saw
was
that.
having a good time.
I
And I
saw
was
that.
like, right? And so music to me is a part of who I am, just as a listener, as somebody. If I when I need to feel deeper emotions, like let's just say I need to get a cry out, right?
Uh
Music
huh.
is the way that I can get there. Without music, it's really difficult for me to get there. So music is very close to who I am emotionally and mentally. So there's
Right.
that.
Yeah.
So ever since then, I there was this. Ever since then, I've wanted to make music. When I was in high school, I had this one moment with a band on stage, and ever since I had this one little taste of performing in front of people, I wanted to do it. And I've made a few albums. I had a few bands. We toured up and down the East Coast. We almost got a record contract, and that never happened. But at this point, I when I did video game streaming, I would make music on the fly.
Yeah.
And if there's anything that I do in life that out of everything that I do in life, I still think that I'm the best at making music. That is the biggest talent that I have. But very few
Wow.
people will know about it. And I don't
Yeah.
care. But I don't care because music to me is one of those things that if you can share it with just a few select people that really
Yeah.
love it,
Yeah.
then that's all I need. Then that's the
Wow.
fulfilling part to me. I used to be on this trek of being like, I am going to be the biggest artist ever, win 10 Grammys and da 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 da. And I'm like, I don't care anymore. I just want to be able to make music sometimes. After a long day, give me a piano, give me a looping station, give me a couple drum beats and some other instruments, and let me play around and make a really cool song. And then that's all I need. That's my
Wow.
calm place. That's my peaceful
Yeah, yeah,
place.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's your calming sedative.
Yeah, man.
Wonderful. Thank you for being vulnerable and sharing with us, Jason. We appreciate that and we appreciate
Yeah.
you. I saw a video where you did something. It's like a double personality with a virus. You're laughing. And I'm saying to myself, this guy reminds me so much of me. You know, I have somehow or the other, God has blessed me with talents. I mean, I'm podcasting, I'm preaching, I'm coaching, I'm singing, I'm writing, and all of them really fulfill me. Unlike you, while I can drown in music, I also feel the most high when I stand before an audience
Mm, mm,
and I speak, and people's eyes are light up, and I know that
mm,
I'm making that connection. How
mm.
was that TEDx talk experience for you, Jason, when you spoke about privilege?
So the experience is different than the process.
Uh huh.
But I will talk to you. Asked me about the experience, and then
Yeah.
I'll backtrack to the process a little bit.
Sure.
So
Sure.
the experience of being in a TEDx talk, there's there was a lot of build up. So when ever since I learned about TEDx and I listened to a few TEDx's, I always wanted to be able to do one myself. I would, any interesting topic that has almost ever existed has somehow touched TEDx in some sort of way. So if
Mm-hmm.
you YouTube it, you can find somebody to speak about it. I was like, I want to be one of those people. I want to be one of those folks who has that chance to share something that is really unique and interesting to a whole group of people in
Right.
person, which is the TEDx experience, and also online, which is the after the TEDx experience that's recorded. So the big part to me, the day that I was
Yes.
giving this talk,
Yeah.
was
Mm-hmm.
realizing that experience of knowing that you had in my mind. I had these goals. I wanted to do this so bad, of making crossing this off my bucket list, of making this step, that it meant it was a surreal experience, because it was like I'm actually doing the thing that I set out to do, and I have a chance to do it. Jason, don't blow it. Don't mess this up. Like, that's the biggest feeling I had, was just like, you got here, now you got to do it right, Jason. So you
Yeah.
better do like so that was the big, it was like
You're on
a mixture
center
of
stage.
yeah.
No
It was a
time. No
mix.
time to rehearse. You just got to deliver.
You already spent the time practicing. You just got to deliver, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's this mixture of excitement, is this mixture of pressure, is this mentioned the mixture of this the feeling of needing to be perfect at something, which that
Yeah.
never happens, which
Right.
is not something that I generally strive for, but it's there. It's the feeling that's there because the moment is there. But it was a beautiful moment. I had my friends and my family in the audience. Usually those TEDx crowds are fairly small
Yeah.
ish. I think there's a cap. Like if it's over 100 people, then you have to like pay more for the license in person
Yeah.
versus
Yeah.
not. And so there's
Yeah.
a few things going on. So the crowd wasn't in really big, nor was the venue exceptionally large either. It was just a really beautiful moment. And when I stepped out on stage,
Mm-hmm.
when I stepped out on stage, I didn't expect to get nervous, but I did. I probably got the most nervous that I got speaking in front
Right.
of people
Yeah.
in the past 10 years. And the part of it was I had to stand on the side of the stage and just wait. They kept like introducing things. I'm
Mm.
like, am I going? No. Am I going? No. And it was like this up and down moment of like getting my emotions. And finally, I was just like, all right,
Ah.
whenever they call me. And that's when they called me. So
Yeah.
it was an emotional roller coaster, a lot of like calming, centering aspects of it, and just relying on the practicing that I did. And it was a really wonderful experience to have that moment with my friends and my family.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Absolutely wonderful. Thank you for sharing. Why is privilege so important? And why is it that, and I know that's two questions, but they kind of interline with each other. Why is it that so many people have this warped perception of the term privilege as opposed to how you expressed it? It sheds so much new light the way you expressed it, but why is the confusion with privilege?
Well, oftentimes when people say privilege, it's weird.
Yeah,
We say it's a privilege to be here. Like if I'm like, hey, it's a privilege to be on your podcast, Andy. Like we feel very comfortable saying that
right.
because it's just part of the lexicon. It's part of our the way that we speak.
Hmm.
However, if we use privilege in any other sense, like I have a privilege of doing blank, it begins to shift into this place of I don't know, that feels maybe I feel guilty about it. Maybe is
Mm,
there a space where like that's not a cool thing?
yeah.
Oftentimes when people say the word privilege, they think of white privilege and they're like, "Well, I don't know if I agree with that concept." And
Mm,
so
yeah.
when I the reason why I started this adventure to change this definition of privilege is like the way we interpret that word is not the way that that word manifests itself actually in reality.
Ah,
So by allowing us to just say, "Hey, you might feel guilty. I understand. Hey, you might not want to talk about it because you think of these other phrases, but and there are some really powerful ways to dig into what this word means that really can help you as an individual and help the people around you. Just like if I can pick this up because I am strong, if I can pick this up because I am strong, the idea of like this cup that I'm picking up is strong, then I have a strength that I can develop and help other people with it. Just like if
hmm,
I have the ability to have if I own a car, I have the privilege
yeah.
of driving from one place to another. I now,
Right.
if I think about it that way, I can use it to help myself and I can use it to help others. If I have the privilege of being a United States citizen
Yeah.
and I was born into that, there's a privilege there. There's a
Right.
strength there. And
Yeah.
so in my mind, there's a really beautiful, there's a beautifulness about recognizing that all these strengths that we have and transforming this idea of privilege into something that we're afraid of and something we don't want to talk about. So just realizing these are the strengths that we are either blessed with or that we earn. And it is
Ah,
our responsibility for us to be able to take those and improve the lives of other people and ourselves. That's what we are given. That's what we are blessed with. And that is, well, there's so much potential there. Why are we not talking about it? That's really what it comes down to.
wow. Yeah. And that is what I mean by new light, fresh, innocent perspective. Thank you for sharing. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
I want to share something with you, and you're going to do some color commentary because this this thing moved my heart, man. So here we go.
Okay. All right.
What's up,
Yeah.
everybody? This is Jason Browne. As some of you know, today is Giving Tuesday. So please make sure you find your favorite charitable organization or nonprofit organization and make sure that instead of, Black Friday and Cyber Monday, that you give into a cause that matters and help somebody else out in life. Doesn't matter if it's Penn State, it doesn't matter if it's like the United Way or something personal. Find somebody to give to aside from what you normally do to help out somebody else's life. And the reason why I'm here is to let y'all know that Michael Keller, a good friend of mine, is also looking for charitable donations. He is soon to get a double lung transplant. That's right. The things you use to breathe, they're getting replaced. And so what he's looking for right now are donations to help him out through that entire process. So granted, insurance is going to cover a bit, but it's going to be over $1 million in a lifetime of recoup because of this situation, this next step of his life. He's one of the best people that I know, a very kind heart. He used to be a drummer in audio imagery. Anybody remembers audio imagery, what's up? And so I'm so happy to speak on his behalf. So if you're encouraged to give on this Giving Tuesday, the link is down below. Feel free to just click on that and read about Michael Keller and donate if you feel so inclined to help support not only a great man, but help him and his great family to become an even greater person along his course. So hope you live and hope you have a happy Giving Tuesday. And Michael Keller, what's up? And see you later.
Wow.
That's
Wow.
like 10 years ago, my guy. 10
I
years ago.
I get it. I get it. But here's the thing. Here's the alignment. I am a member of Lions Clubs International.
Oh, nice, man.
And I get it, Jason. I get it. We need to understand that there are people out there that need a commitment of pure service, no strings attached,
Yeah.
some more than others. How much of this is a fulfilling part of your life? I could see the passion in your voice and the joy and everything. You see, that was 10 years ago. It's still with you today, bro. You still
Nice,
have
man.
it.
Thank you.
But people need to understand how important this aspect of your life is. What does it mean to you?
So, what does this mean? What does it mean to this idea of serving others and giving back? Is that what you're going for?
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
basically, yes.
so, there's a. This comes. It comes back to the possibilities of privilege. Like, it comes back to this idea that if we are given, if we have certain things in our lives and other people don't,
Mm-hmm.
why we can be comfortable. We can
Uh-huh.
just say that we can be comfortable in that. We can rely on that and just be like, I have all of these things in my life, and then just sit in it or
Right.
grow it for
Yeah.
yourself. And
Yeah.
that's what a lot of people do. And I'm not necessarily knocking that. I'm the thing that I feel though for me is that anything that I've been blessed with so much, man. Like
Yeah.
I can hear, I can speak, I can see, I have enough money to get food, I have clean water, I have a house over my head, I have internet that I'm connecting to you on, I have a microphone, I have a shirt that is clean that I've
Mm.
washed recently,
Yeah. Yeah.
go to the dentist, all of these things that I have, and it's to know that even those basic things that many of us take for granted don't
Yes.
exist around the world in such abundance is isn't really. I don't understand how that's not frustrating to somebody. I don't understand how that's not concerning to someone. I don't understand how that's not something that's just that that just bothers you a little bit in the back of your mind to just know that you have so much. And if we have so much, if I have so much, then what extra effort is there to do a little bit more for somebody else? Like for me to make that video, I was at work. I remember there's I didn't have much on the walls. I think that was a new office that I just got,
Okay.
and it didn't take much time for me to do that. It didn't take
Yeah.
much energy for me to do that. All it took was for me to just be honest, to just say, here's a story. Here's some way that you can help. If you can, cool. And if we continue to do that little by little, just take one little extra step a day, one little extra step a week, the amount of comfortability to do this more and on a larger scale is going to grow. That's going to become part of our identity. That's going to become part of who we are. And the more that that's the case, the more that we can help others to get what we have, even on a very basic level. So where does it come from for me? It is, if you enjoy human beings, if you think human beings are nice and you want human beings to thrive, then serving others is part of that responsibility if you love other people. And that's
Yeah.
where this thing comes from, is like
Yeah.
other people need the things that other people can benefit from what you can give.
Right. Wow. Love it. Thank you, Jason. Love it. Love it. Love it. Let me switch gears a little bit
Sure.
and focus on some of the stuff that you have been doing. Tell us about the podcast and
You've done your research, man.
of
You've done your
course,
research.
of course, this is what it's all about, Jason. Tell us about the podcast and the audience that you want to impact, as well as the message. That's the key thing.
So I'm working on basically I want to be able to tell stories related to privilege. So
Yeah,
you can watch the TEDx talk and you can say, oh, that's really cool. Okay, so how
yeah,
does privilege manifest itself in the world in other ways?
yeah,
And so I wanted to go through this process of learning what how privilege looks like in different parts of the world and for each of
yeah,
us.
yeah, yeah.
So I'm starting this podcast, and I'm not one to like promote my own podcast on somebody else's podcast, and that's not what I want to do. But I do appreciate the question. What I do want to say though is like the process, and I think this speaks to what I think each of us can do. If you're curious about something, dive into it and find other people
Mm,
to have a conversation with.
yeah.
So so what I'm working on is I'm speaking to people around the world. So I have the last person I spoke to. Her name is Olga. She was in Ukraine when the Ukraine got attacked, and like she was speaking about her experience about how her house is gone, how she went to help people get out, and how she's like living in France now because she doesn't have a place to go back to, but she still
Right.
goes back occasionally. Like, and it's such a powerful experience. And the idea where privilege comes from in this
Hmm.
conversation is not about war. It's not about any of that. What she wanted to talk about was the privilege of knowing, of needing to know that she feels invincible, of the
Mm,
belief that I feel invincible, and that is a privilege because other people who I'm around or in my country can't feel that way, and that is an
right.
identity that I'm sticking to. And I'm getting chills just thinking about it because it's like that I, the self confidence or self belief is a privilege in some ways, but I would not have ever thought that that would be the story that emerged from somebody who's been through a traumatic war situation for so long. And it's those conversations that I want to be able to bring to the forefront so that when someone's like, oh yeah, Jason, the possibilities of privilege are cool, but what else, like what does that really mean? And now I can be like, oh well, look at this.
Yeah,
Right? Like
yeah, yeah,
I can
yeah.
give some like easy access to the deeper stories that, and not all the stories are going to relate to all the people, to everyone,
Right.
um and not all the commentary will you agree with, and that's fine. But
Yes.
it's worth a conversation. It's worth discussing, and it's worth exploring, and that's why I'm doing
Wonderful.
that project.
Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful. Wonderful. So, in terms of the public speaking, we have so many different aspects of public speaking. And I recently had attended a session with Lisa Nichols, and I listened to her story, and it's awesomely inspiring. But what I admire about Lisa Nichols is that when she gets on stage, it's like she's home.
Mm.
And everything about her, the energy, the connectivity, it just flows. And I'm thinking to myself, I have to get to that place.
Yeah, I know what you're
But
talking about.
I also think in the back of my mind, Jason, even if that is the case, there is something about me that I want people to recognize as well that
Hmm.
brings my originality to the stage and not necessarily copying or mimicking somebody else. When you get on a stage and you do public speaking, what is the thing that you think really defines your ability to connect with people? And you know that they're going to remember it as a result of that. Is there a defining quality that you bring out when you get on stage to public speak?
A defining quality, and how do people remember?
Yeah.
Um, I think the defining quality is for me. One
Yeah.
of the defining
Yeah.
qualities is a little bit of spontaneity,
Uh huh.
is a little bit of vulnerability,
Mm-hmm.
and the third thing that most folks we don't talk about in public speaking enough is being present with the crowd. So
Right.
like a mixture of all these things together allow me like when I go on stage, I have you aside from TEDx, I have my points that I want to make, but I'm paying attention to the audience. I'm
Right.
talking to the audience. This is a conversation with the audience. Even though I might speak 90% of the time, 95, 99% of the time, it is still a conversation. And
With the
as such,
audience.
it is my
Yeah.
responsibility to pay attention to how the audience is feeling, to the energy of the audience, to what they're laughing at, to what they're not laughing at. Are people yawning? Are people getting tired? Is this like the third speech of the day that they have to sit through? Is it right after lunch? Like, what is it, have we been serious all day? Like, what is the vibe needed? All of these things combine into like this thing that's running in my brain, this little like algorithm or program in my brain
Yeah,
that's like
yeah,
constantly
yeah.
checking in. It's like, all right, are they good? Like, is everyone, are we, and sometimes I even ask, I was like, are we still good, y'all? If y'all still good, say yeah. And people might be like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, well, that's the first
Hmm.
flag. That if I don't
Hmm.
get an immediate response, then there's the energy's off. Um,
Yeah.
and sometimes I'll just be like, I'll stop what I'm saying. It's like, does that make sense? Like, th- and I'll just point out like, for how does that relate to your life? And I'll engage. Now you can't do that on
Yes.
every stage. You can't do that in
Yeah.
every single
Yeah.
forum.
Right.
However, what you can do in every forum is keep a pulse check on the
Hmm.
audience to make sure that you aren't just saying words,
Yeah.
that you are actively having a communication. And when you choose to do that and show up and be yourself, going
Yeah.
back to what you're saying of being who you are,
Uh huh.
not trying to
Uh
pretend to
huh.
be somebody else, not trying to pretend to like do something that someone else does, and you just show up and be like, hey y'all, I'm me. And if you don't like me, then that's fine. But I'm going to be me.
Yeah.
And that's what you're going to get today.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And when you do
Yeah.
those kind of things together, it wraps up into something memorable. Last thing I'll share with this is
Sure.
the memorable piece. 9 times out of 10, and for someone who's often on stage like yourself in the crowds that you are, repetition is key. If you can
Ah.
have something
Yeah.
that people
Yeah.
can repeat,
Yeah.
especially they can say out loud, this call and response thing is a very
Yeah.
valuable tool when you
Yeah.
do public speaking. I gave a talk 5 years ago, and if I'm at different events, people still shout out to me. What was it? M&M's, Jason, M&M's, because I had this one talk about M&M's, and I
Right.
had the
Right. Right.
crowd say
Yeah.
M&M's,
All right. Yeah.
and I'm like, how do you still remember this? And so when it comes to like making things stick,
Yeah.
repetition and call and response are two of the most valuable things you can do to let people
Yeah.
remember stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful. I think that from a professional perspective, former President Barack Obama was a master of those techniques.
Mm-hmm.
He got people to say, "Yes, we can,"
Yep. Yep.
and they
Yep.
did. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's history.
Absolutely,
That's
man.
history. So, in terms of your speaking ability, is there an impact that you draw from? For me personally,
Mm.
I look at Martin Luther King Jr.,
Yeah.
I look at Nelson Mandela, and I kind of combine those two genres of expressive thoughts and ideas in the manner in which I speak. I try to keep it as informative and philosophical, but at the same time engaging with
Yeah.
stories and anecdotes and stuff. Is
Mm.
there any one or two or three persons that have influenced your style of speaking?
Hey, whenever I get asked this, I always feel like my answer is disappointing to
Ah,
folks. But like it comes because you just mentioned some of the most powerful people in the past 50 years in the
yeah,
world of
yeah,
having a voice to be able to communicate at very critical times, motivating a group of people to take action in
yeah,
ways that are helpful to humanity overall. I don't even
correct.
think that any of that can be argued with. Like universally, that is almost a truth about how they operated. And so I'm not going to say those people. um, what I will say is that I looked when I think of matching my style of performance or style of speeches on stage to somebody or to people, I think of my favorite musicians and my favorite comedians. So whenever I think it, like I'm a big fan of Michael Jackson. If you
All
think
right.
about who Michael Jackson in interviews, he's usually like, "Hey, I'm Michael Jackson." Da, 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 da. But when you see him on stage and when he turns it on
Wow.
and he's uniquely himself,
Yeah.
there's no hesitancy. Um, there's no question of what you're experiencing. It's
Mm-hmm.
his singing, his dancing, whether he's with his brothers or whether he was with whatever in stadiums. He is able to transform an audience's experiences by just
Yeah.
being who he is.
Yes.
When I think of folks like so musicians, there's a number of musicians, but like the other group that I listen to is comedians. And you're like, Jason, why are comedians? They just crack jokes. But no, they are the individuals who take a piece of content, will practice it in front of audiences and test it out for a year and a half before they do their special on Netflix or whatever. And they've been refining it in front of hundreds and thousands of people, messing up, doing it right, messing it up, doing it right, and then still having some spontaneity. So by the time they
Mm.
do the actual event, it still feels brand new. The Kevin
You.
Harts, the Dave
Yeah.
Chappelles, they are
Yeah.
the folks that when they hop on stage, you're like, dang, that felt like the first time he did it. No, that was not the first time that they did it. They did that a million other times beforehand, but they're able to convey and bring you in and still say these really impactful moments while still making you smile and laugh and think. Those are the folks who I'm like a mixture between this whole musician side, going back to music, and also this comedian side, because comedians talk about things that a lot of people are afraid to talk about. So how do they get to do it? How do they navigate those things? So one little quick final story about the comedian side.
Yeah.
Jerry Seinfeld was talking
Mm-hmm.
about Dave Chappelle,
Yeah.
and he was talking about how Dave Chappelle dodges lasers, and what that means
Uh,
is Dave Chappelle, for a good portion, probably not so much in the past like 3 years of his career, up until like when he got his a bunch of his awards, he's able to take really nuanced topics and approach you, and like you think you're about to get offended, and and like as soon as this laser is shooting to like hit him and be like, oh, you've offended people, he just slightly like moves out of the way and it flies past him, and he's able to take these interesting topics more so in the past prior to 3 years ago, and just move past them. So how is an orator, somebody on stage in front of a microphone, able to take a really tough topic, maybe privilege, and then come to you and say, we're going to talk about privilege, and they're like, the lasers come, and it's like, but wait, we're going to do some really cool things to make sure that you help yourself, and then but oh, also you're going to help others along the way. And it's this
yeah.
dodging lasers idea from Jerry Seinfeld and Dave Chappelle that is like a lot of people that you think of traditionally from public speaking still can't do that. That's why I think of musicians and comedians.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it, Jason. Do you consider yourself as a culture activist?
Mm. A culture activist.
Activist.
What is that?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll
Okay.
answer the question, Andy, but
So
then I want to
no,
hear from
nope,
you. Yeah, go ahead,
nope.
go ahead, go
Hold
ahead.
on.
Yeah.
Don't answer the question. Just look at this.
I'm just going to talk and reflect while I let you see this beautiful, beautiful lake at sunset. So this entire weekend has been fascinating. I learned a lot about Native American culture, Aborigine culture, and I'm just scratching the surface of what that all means. In South Dakota, there are a number of Native American reservations, native reservations, and there's a lot of conflict between natives and non-natives, which would be me. We have a lot of work to do in order to kind of just have a conversation about what that truly means. So I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that if we continue talking about this, and hopefully at your next sporting event, we acknowledge the indigenous, the original stewards of this land, we can begin to have conversations and not be afraid to talk about the fact that we are sitting on land that was lived on, loved by another culture before we got here. So have a great Saturday, everybody. Mm.
Now you know why I asked that question.
So, am I a cultural activist?
Mm-hmm.
So when you say that, the first thing that pops into my brain is a response that says, I'm not doing enough to be considered a cultural activist.
Okay.
Um, I'm very critical about myself.
Mm-hmm.
So to adopt that language, I would need to be more involved on multiple levels because
Okay.
there's so much that needs to be done to transform culture in the United States and around the world in various capacities to the benefit of human beings and to the benefit of
Right.
all of us.
Yeah.
That being said, um, that being said, I think if think of this possibilities of privilege, TEDx talk, I'm working on the book, this whole podcast thing. I hope that that's something that is in the process. I hope that that's something that somebody might associate with me at one day. Uh, I don't need that label, but I respect, but I understand the meaning of it. And if there's any, a lot of issues that we face, a lot of issues that we face in society come from culture and society itself. Come from our perceptions of it, come from our understandings of it, come from the way that we teach our friends and our family, our kids, our environments. All of those things combined, all like that, all of that is true. And if we're going to make significant impacts, you have to be able to change our perceptions of society and culture.
Yeah.
I hope
Yeah.
to do that to some extent. I just don't think that I've earned that kind of label yet. But
I hear you.
hopefully, with the possibilities of privilege, conversations happen and we begin to make a shift. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. We just have about 2.5 minutes to go, and this has been an amazing episode. I want you to think about the possibility that if you have a megaphone and just under 8 billion people, which is roughly the population of the world, are listening to you, you just have this one opportunity to tell them something that you want them to remember and never forget. It's an impact statement that you need to make. What would you say to them, Jason?
I would say. I mean, that's a big question, man. That's a lot of people. First of all, like, man, on the spot, like, wow. Okay, all right, I'll do it. I would just say that I would say something like each. No, I would say something like if you hear my voice, you love something. You love yourself. You love your family. You might love your community, your father, your daughter, your friends, the environment. You might love music. You might love dogs. You might love just sitting at the end of a very long day listening to nature or listening to your favorite TV show. Whatever it is that you love, other people can be supported in the things that they love too. So find some way to share the things that you have been blessed with so that other people can find deeper levels of love in their own life. Something like that, man.
Yeah, yeah, I love it.
That
I
was a
love
lot
it.
of
Wow.
that's a big question, man. That's a big
Yeah,
question
I
right there.
know, I know, I know, I know. So, Jason, I'm going to give you the opportunity to tell people how they can make contact with you if they want you to speak at an event, if they want you to, um, yeah, podcast and stuff. I'm going to just put some stuff on the screen and you can tell them, hey, all of the under, reach out to
Basically,
me.
Basically, I'll just make it real quick. You can hit me up at the Jason Brown with an E everywhere. At the Jason Brown everywhere. You can hit me up. Only difference is on TikTok. But anyway, just Google me or look me up on TikTok. You'll find me. But here's the one thing that I want to ask you to do. You can contact me, reach out to me, and all this other stuff. That's great. The one thing that if you could do is just go to the TEDx talk, listen to it, and leave a comment. That's it.
Yeah.
If that's all you
Yeah.
do, I'm happy. That would be fantastic. And then you can message me
Wonderful.
later if you want to. But I appreciate it, Andy. This has been fantastic.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. We have been in the presence of the man of possibilities with privilege, Jason Brown, and he has shared some amazing stuff and nuggets, valuable content with us, folks. This is the Breakout Room, the place for health, happiness, and prosperity. Until next time, remember that you have something that the world needs. Share your story, share your love, share your inspiration. Someone is waiting out there to hear it. So, on behalf of my guest, Jason Brown, this is Andy Charles of Andy's Personal Development, saying so long, Godspeed, God bless, Shalom, Namaste. Bye for now, folks.